Yeah, definitely a lot of potato sacks. Make sure to kick them. They'll definitely say potato. Seven woke to find himself lying on a floor. That's a really uncomfortable way to be lying, just saying. He twisted his neck to peer around the room. Where am I? There was a small, shabby bed, a dirty sink, a toilet with no stall or privacy. As a cop, it was a place Seven had seen all too often. I'm in a cell. Opposite the toilet, a door. He struggled to his feet, hobbled toward it. He gave the door a good shove, then another, then tried pulling. It refused to open. That was about what he expected. It wasn't like someone would put him in a cell, only to leave it unlocked. He threw himself against the door a few times. Nothing. I knew it. He grumbled to himself, moved back toward the bed, and sat down. He sat there for a while. How long, he wasn't sure. After a point, he nodded off, and nearly fallen asleep when he was aroused by a distant noise.
There, over. It's 9.
The voice was far away. Very far. He couldn't understand what it was saying, but nonetheless, it was a high one. A child. His eyes shot open.
Hey, over there. Okay, I'm coming.
As he listened, he could pick out several different voices. At least 5, 6, maybe more. Where were they coming from? He looked around the room frantically. Maybe the door? No, that wasn't it.
Let's go now.
Was it coming from the left? Under the bed? He grabbed the bed, flipped it up with ease. A hole for ventilation, covered with a metal grate. Seven lay on his stomach, peered through the grate. He couldn't see anything, it was too dark. But now that he'd found it, there could be no doubt. This was the source of the voices. For a moment he was confused. Why were there children nearby? Then he remembered what Cradle Pharmaceuticals had told him. How a ship would take the kidnapped children from the wharf to a waiting passenger liner out in the ocean. Was Seven on that liner? It didn't matter. What mattered now was that he find a way to rescue them. Seven looked at the metal grate. Could he fit through that hole? He stuck his fingers through the grate, grabbed hold. Yeah, and I like that, you son of a bitch! The dark square sat open before him. Seven wiped open the sweat from his forehead, crawled inside. Junpei waited for Seven to resume. The longer he waited, the clearer it became that Seven had no intention to resume. He'd gone silent, stared off into the air, eyes blank. Hey, what happened after that? He'd waited long enough, but Seven shook his head. I don't remember what happened after that. I think I found some kind of door out the duct. I think I found some kids, too. Oh, man. Why can't I remember what happened? And what happened to the kids? Did you save them? I don't know. I don't know if it was me. I felt this feeling. One of the kids died. A girl. Huh? In his heart, Junpei felt something cold. Seven's head dropped. Junpei saw a look of sadness the likes of which he'd never seen on the man. The large man's eyes blinked rapidly, as if he were fighting back tears, and he swallowed hard. His sigh was like the melancholy setting of an old, abandoned building. He shook his head and spoke. Anyway, just please don't ask me anymore. I don't remember anything else. And after that, Junpei could hardly try to force any answers out of the man. There was nothing more he could do. The children who had been kidnapped 9 years before. Apparently a company called Cradle Pharmaceutical had been behind it, taking them to a ship. One they were on now. They'd been part of some type of experiment. Something to do with controlling human beings, Seven had said. Scrolling TikTok, found an MSA video in Russian, thought it was in English. Oops. 16 children who'd been kidnapped were the subjects for the experiment. 7, it said. Ali, Light, and Nona were 3 of them. New information. 7 was or had been a police officer, too. Still, there was little he could do with this new information. He'd learned nothing about the notary game or Zero. No idea why they'd been brought to the ship either. Or about the experiment 9 years before. Junpei couldn't forget what 7 had said the purpose of the experiment had been. Control human beings. Could such an absurd experiment really have been conducted? Still understood it even if it was in but in English? That's a bit funky. Eventually, Junpei shook his head, returned to his investigation. Okay, so if I remember correctly, we need like 3 of these tiles. I'm not sure if the towel is important for anything. When you scroll to the next vid, you're like, wait, which language was that? I think I can change this middle one. No, wait. I think I wanted to put this drawer in here. Okay, never mind. Hey! Enjoy food, Muffin. Okay, so nothing in this room. So let's go to the dark room quick. You wake to find yourself in a dark room with toilet paper. It's still white enough for me to know what it is, even in the dark. Nothing out of the ordinary about it. I know, it's toilet paper. "14 is E. I wonder where we've seen a hint like that before. Actually, and moment of amusement to mention this. I think I remember at one point someone, I don't remember if it was Terran or Lucagen, but this puzzle absolutely confused them for a while, and they brute forced it, and never found that 14 equals E 14 equals E hint. Sorry, just it baffles me on that one. Dry skin is a woman's worst nightmare. Apparently. Actually, thinking about it... There's a sink in the dark room. I don't think I checked that sink yet. Okay, maybe I don't need to. In the other room, the river and the spring went together to solve the puzzle. Does that mean there might be a similar puzzle with this mirror? There's nothing else here apart from the mirror. Maybe I just need to pair something with it. Like, I don't know, towel? What's the deal with the lighting? There's just this one beam of light. The rest of the place is too dark. There's nothing we can explore. No way we can explore the rest of this room. Wait, I just remembered something important. A mirror. On the back of the fucking drawer. Now I just gotta figure out where to reflect the light. Maybe if I go somewhere a little easier to shine the light. So if I shine it on the mirror in the back... I get it. Symbols appear. The left one is a sun, the right one's got a moon. I'm gonna remember this. Four, 7, sun, moon. 4's on the left. Sun is on the left. This one's a bit of a flushy puzzle. Or fishy puzzle. Mother Nature is gonna hate me for this one. You hear something?
I did. It doesn't look like anything happened here.
Wonder what that sound was. There we go. There's that sound again. It happens whenever I pull the string a couple of times. Junpei, here's something from the other room. What, the dark room? Well, if we find a light switch in there, I think we know what the puzzle did. But no, unfortunately, it's not like a light switch or anything like that. It's the desk. This drawer opens easily. And for 2 more Scrabble tiles. Now, I believe we could solve this puzzle now. The only mystery left is that door.
Alright, let's crack that mystery then.
We've got 4 tiles.
And there are a bunch of tiles that are the same size as the wall here.
So if we replace 4 of the tiles on the wall with the ones we've got, that should open the door. There's only one way to find out. There are a few different ways that you could end up solving this puzzle. You could see it as a, oh hey, there's 4 of something in this word, and we have 4 of something, do a simple replacement. But if you'll also notice, there's a 14 in red on these tiles. And we were told that 14 is E. The many ways that puzzles can be solved in this game. Just saying. Regardless, replace the E's. If you convert 14 to hexadecimal, that's E.
Basically, the E's in emergence are the 14s for the tiles. Replace them, gives us the answer.
I don't really care why it worked. Let's just get out of here. Yeah, I think it was Lucajin that just blunt forced it open by accident. Like, she had a vague idea that the the E's and the 4 tiles matched up, but didn't put the 2 and 2 together that was what needed to be replaced until she just forced the replacement. Funny that. But hey, if it works. The hell's this place? The words had sprung unbidden to his lips, but it was clear why. Lotus and Seven reached the bottom of the stairs, stopped short, terrified. This room is creepy.
I think we ought to get the hell out of here. Now.
He jogged up the stairs on the opposite side of the room, shook the door in the wall next to the catwalk. Didn't open, and he muttered to himself.
Figures.
It's locked, isn't it?
Yep, don't know why I thought this wouldn't be any different.
Junpei looked around the room again. In the center of it, A chair. The back of it was covered with electrodes connected to a nest of wires. Beneath it, a glass panel. Junpei wasn't sure what it was for, but it made him uncomfortable. Whatever might have been beyond the glass, Junpei couldn't tell. It was too dark. Junpei turned to look at the right side of the room. A table covered with a piece of cloth. Parts of the cloth were stained with something that looked suspiciously like blood. On top, a number of metal instruments. Junpei didn't know what they were for, and he had a feeling he didn't want to find out. His mind began to imagine what could have taken place in the dark, cold room. The things he imagined weren't pleasant. Junpei shook his head in an attempt to clear it, focused on something else.
Anyway, we don't want to stay here any longer than we gotta. Let's figure out the puzzle, get the hell out of here. Come on.
Seek a new brain cell. Because the gods know I need it. Ah! Lovely. The torture room. Well, first things first, there's a bit of an odd-looking tool here.
Let's see, we've got nads, a hammer, forceps, and these other things are too old and broken. No idea what they are. Doesn't this wrench look too new?
It does. I didn't notice it before you mentioned it, but it's not rusty. Perfect for breaking kneecaps. The cover's bolted pretty good. Should be able to get those bolts off with the wrench. Hey, it's open. The hole's too small. You can't see in even with the cover off. Well, you can't see in, but there's probably enough room to stick your arm in. You sure you want to do that? There could be something dangerous in there. Okay, that scares me, but we need to see if there's anything useful. So in other words, find some way to light it up, maybe? There are a bunch of buttons with the letters A through F. Let's push one of them. I guess these buttons switch on or off when you push them. Don't say the floor's suddenly gonna open up. Nothing on the panel. Adjust the switches to match the blocks in the sample above.
I don't know what this thing is, but we gotta figure out this puzzle.
It's right next to a torture chair. Whatever it is, I don't think it's good. So we just adjust the switches to match the blocks on the top, right? Adjust the switches shown at the four corners, then press the check button. You don't know what this thing does. You could always come back to it later. There are, lots of other things you could do. Oh, wow. Done. Adjustment complete. Proceeding to execution. To complete the experiment, data must be collected from the subject. Once preparation is finished, place subject in chair.
Whoa. I think we solved the puzzle. What does that mean by preparation?
I don't know. I've got a bad feeling about this.
I think that means one of us has to sit in the chair.
Well, 7's never gonna fit in that thing. It's either you or me, Junpei. Collecting data. I wonder if it's gonna run electricity through the subject.
There's a human head on the screen. Maybe it's gonna zap the brain with a little electricity.
This really doesn't sound safe.
Well, we've still gotta prepare.
We could talk about this after we finished what it means by preparation, alright?
Well, if it wants us to prepare, maybe we ought to ask it what we need to do.
Fill the tank with water.
There's probably something around here to open the tank, or whatever it's asking us to do.
Looks like the only controls are in this room.
Needle in the gauge is at 0. Doesn't look like it's gonna move.
Okay, turning those doesn't do anything.
Bunch of knobs. Doesn't seem like they do anything.
You think it's broken? Okay, nothing on the catwalk. L-shaped pipe and the straight one are both connected to the tank. These stairs go to the exit. Anything over here? So pretty much this is confined to a single room. Already investigated that. Need a key. Some sort of weird symbol on them. If I got this right, it's a sun. Don't you think there's something under the glass? There is indeed, but I don't remember how to get to that. Let's see. None of these are a sun, really. Whole lot of cables coming out of that thing. Really kind of a mess. I can barely tell which is which. Wait, I can feel something. Small, cold, hard. Doesn't feel like there's anything else in here. There we go, sun key. That opens the manacles. I don't think we're gonna need the sun key again in here, though. It just seems unlikely. Fill the tank with water. It has to do with the control panel, but I don't know what to push for it. Alright, let's pull this lever. Oh, there we go.
The hell? What's going on?
Will you calm down? It's just water going somewhere. It sounds like it's underneath us. That means the floor. Jump height, look! Let's see. Oh, wow. I can see through the glass. EDBF. That's that settled. A strange noise from the chair. Guess it's turned on. Guess the puzzle here was that the power had to be sent in a specific way. And with that, we get to our core puzzle.
Please seat subject and device. Like we thought, it's not gonna work unless someone sits. How ironic that this would be the situation in which this slim, beautiful body is useful. You sure? I could sit in it and you could solve... Jinpei's right. We screw it up. Seven couldn't bring himself to finish the thought. His eyes fell to the floor. Jinpei followed them. Beneath them was a dead shark, floating underneath the glass. Maybe he'd been killed by an electric shock. I'll be fine. Even if I fall in, this shark's dead. But... no one likes an indecisive man, Junpei. I could still give you advice from the chair, too, you know. I just don't want to stay in this room any longer than we have to. Go over to that screen. Let's get this over with. After her words had made it clear Lotus would book no argument, she turned, walked to the chair. She didn't sit down. Despite what she'd said, she indeed felt hesitation. Her legs shook. You think you could do me one last favor? Don't say last. You make me nervous. Just listen. If something happens to me, tell my daughters I love them very much. No. Tell them I'll always love them. Daughters? You got kids? I do. Suppose they're about your age, Junpei. They're twins. I had them when I was young after, some things happened. Their names are Nona and... Wait, Nona? Junpei's words shot out before he realized. He remembered the story Seven had mentioned. Oi, Light, Nona. Those were their names. Well, some of them. The kids that were there in the experiment. The hell? What's wrong with you? Lotus took a step back. Seven looked just as shocked as Junpei. He blinked rapidly, as if he weren't sure he was completely awake. No way, I couldn't. Lotus, is your name Kashiwabara? Lotus's eyes went wide. How do you know that? You serious? What the hell is this? There's no way you're that kid's mom. That kid? What do you mean, that kid? Why are you acting like you've met her? I have. What? Yeah, I met one of your kids. When? 9 years ago. Where? On this ship. Why? It's not a short story. I don't care how long it is. Tell me. What happened? Seven glared at Junpei, then turned to Lotus and to speak. It was the same details as before. Nothing had changed. At last, Seven finished. Lotus shook her head. Oh my god. Everything I've been looking for the last 9 years. The person with all the answers was right here. Looking for. 9 years ago, my daughters disappeared. 9 days later, they came back. They didn't tell me what happened. I took them to the doctors. I was told they hadn't been hurt. I wasn't sure they'd been through something terrible, but I couldn't bring myself to force them to talk. If I did, I'd force them to relive whatever horrors they'd been through. I didn't have a choice. I had to ignore it. A few months passed. They started to act like they'd always had before they disappeared. They smiled, made jokes, did all the silly things kids do. It got harder to ask what had happened. How could I? Eventually, I knew there was no way I could. But I'm still a mother. I couldn't forget something that terrible had happened to my children. I'd investigate on my own. Find out what had happened during those 9 years. And what'd you find out?
Nothing. The police pretended to be concerned, but they didn't do anything. Once the 16 children that had gone missing had came back, things were just swept under the rug. Even the media didn't care. Someone was paying or threatening them to keep their mouths shut. Cradle Pharmaceutical. Now, probably something even bigger than that. You've heard of them, then? That's the first time I've heard of their name, actually. How did you find out that Cradle was connected to the kidnappings in the first place?
I figured finding out whatever the victims had in common led me to the culprit. That's what any good cop does.
What'd they have in common?
and every single one had disappeared, had gone to this one hospital. He was under the control of Cradle, and after that, it was just about connecting the dots. The hospital. For a while, I was trying to get some kind of story out of the kids. One of them told a weird story. That being? Have you heard about the Ganzfeld Experiment? I guess all these kids had to go through it while they were still at the hospital. I think it was passed off as a sort of counseling. This one's actually a very famous psychological experiment to measure ESP. Subjects Q and A are put into separate rooms, far away from one another. A series of video images are shown to Subject Q, who is told to send the images to Subject A by thinking about them. Subject A, on the other hand, is put in a reclining chair and given a blindfold. With their senses cut off, A is asked to guess what images Q is looking at. Oh right, I've heard of that. It's a telepathy experiment. Depending on the source of media, you might see this experiment done with cards and with two people sitting across from one another, as opposed to something as complicated as this. You wouldn't think this has relevance, but in any visual novel, if it's mentioned once, think of it as important. So that's how the experiment on the ship was supposed to work, huh? The experiment to control people. I don't know if any of the telepathy stuff really exists, but maybe someone from Cradle bought into it. Seven had begun thinking hard for the last several minutes, and finally spoke. Even if that's the case, I still don't get how anything has to do with any of this. The Nonary game, Zero, why were we kidnapped? What does that have anything to do with telepathy? I know I brought all of it up, but I have no idea. Maybe none of this stuff is connected after all. In that moment of silence, a cold voice echoed from the ceiling. No subject has been detected. Unless a subject is detected within 60 seconds, all power will be shut down. System recovery is estimated to take 1 hour. If you wish to proceed with the experiment, seat subject in the restraining device. No, that doesn't sound good. Okay, I'm going. That's not what we... Just hurry up and get it over with. Junpei, I'm counting on you. Right. Lotus sat into the chair. Junpei looked at her one last time, made his way to the monitor. Please tell me right away if you feel anything weird. You worry too much. Get on with it, be a man, or June's gonna leave you. Lotus was putting on her best act, but her legs were shaking so much that if she weren't sitting down, she would have fallen. Failure wouldn't be accepted. Now for the core puzzle. There isn't exactly any hint that you'd normally get for this puzzle. You kind of have to just feel it out. Which I think if I set this to 2... There we go. So that side is finished. All that leaves is this side. There we go. It can be a confusing puzzle because it feels like a lot of information to pay attention to, but think of it this way. You're not paying attention to 3 screens on that one, you're only paying attention to 2. Sure, the buttons on each side do affect both screens, but it's not terrible to poke at them and figure out what they do. Release subject from restraining device. Lotus, are you alright? Yeah. Glad nothing bad happened. I do think my life got a little shorter. Hold on, I'll get you out. Let's get out of here now. Being a guinea pig is not for me. I guess full admittance, one of the reasons why some of these puzzles aren't taking as long as they could be is specifically because I have played this game before, at least once or twice.